Jung was right, you exist in multiple realities simultaneously. Carl Jung, the great Swiss psychologist and mystic of the psyche, intuited something profound long before the rise of quantum mechanics, that human beings do not exist as fixed, linear identities, but as layered, multidimensional beings. In his psychological explorations, Jung encountered evidence, through dreams, archetypes, active imagination, and synchronicity, that the human experience cannot be fully understood within the narrow confines of time, space, or rational logic. You are not oneself. You are many. What we call the self is not a singular, unchanging identity. Rather, it is a fluid, evolving constellation of inner parts, subpersonalities, and archetypes. In Jung's view, each psychological state or inner mode you embody gives rise to its own worldview, its own unique reality. These realities are not fantasies. They are lived experiences on their own level of consciousness, and they shape how you perceive the outer world, your relationships, and your destiny. Just as quantum physics now reveals that particles can exist in a state of superposition, occupying multiple potential realities until observed, Jung proposed that your psyche lives in a kind of psychological superposition. You are already living in many versions of yourself simultaneously. Each emotional state, each thought pattern, each persona or role you inhabit creates a ripple in the field of reality, generating its own version of you within a greater field of potentialities. Think of the you who is confident and fearless, and the you who is wounded and guarded. Think of the child within you, the parent, the rebel, the artist, the lover, the sage. None of these versions of you are illusions. They exist in parallel, not in time, but in psychic space. They don't just emerge randomly, they appear in synchrony with your inner and outer circumstances. Synchronicity, the language of meaning. This brings us to Jung's revolutionary idea of synchronicity, the phenomenon where seemingly unrelated events occur together in a way that is meaningfully connected, even though there is no direct causal link. Unlike the Newtonian view of the world that demands cause and effect for every event, Jung saw that the universe often responds not with logic, but with meaning. You think of someone, and they call. You open a book at random, and find the answer you were looking for. These are not accidents, Jung said. They are manifestations of the deep, invisible threads that connect all versions of you across the matrix of your existence. Synchronicity is not magic. It is the symbolic echo of your own internal state. The universe mirrors back to you what your psyche is vibrating with, across all levels, conscious, subconscious, and beyond. In these moments of synchronicity, time collapses. The rational mind loses its grip. What emerges is a glimpse into the multidimensional reality of being, where outer and inner worlds reflect one another like mirrors in a sacred geometry. Anima and animus, the inner marriage. One of Jung's most potent psychological discoveries was the concept of anima and animus, the feminine principle in a man's unconscious, and the masculine principle in a woman's unconscious. But Jung was not speaking about biological gender. He was describing universal polarities within the soul, the yin and yang, the lunar and solar, the receptive and the assertive. To live as a whole being, Jung argued, we must reconcile these opposites within ourselves. The anima and animus are not just psychic contents, they are bridges to deeper layers of the self. They are doorways to your alternate versions, holding keys to the unlived potentials within you. A man who integrates his anima becomes sensitive, emotionally aware, creatively open. A woman who integrates her animus gains strength, clarity, and direction. When these opposites begin to communicate and merge, a new self is born, not as a fusion, but as a harmony of multiplicity. This inner union activates another reality, one in which your opposites no longer battle, but collaborate. You enter into resonance with a more expansive field of existence. You begin to tap into those other versions of yourself who had previously been locked away behind repression, fear, trauma, or cultural programming. You are already living in all versions of yourself. What does this mean practically? It means that the you who made a different decision years ago still exists in a parallel layer of the psyche. It means that when you imagine a different life, where you took that risk, followed that dream, or healed that wound, you are not just fantasizing. You are sensing the psychic imprint of a real possibility that lives within you, in another timeline of consciousness. These are not past lives in the traditional sense. These are simultaneous selves, alive in other dimensions of your psyche, echoing back into your current life through intuition, dreams, synchronicities, and spontaneous shifts in awareness. You can feel this when you are deeply moved by a piece of music you've never heard before. When you walk into a place for the first time and it feels familiar. When you meet someone and feel like you've known them forever. These are glimpses into other versions of reality where your soul is already connected, already awake, already evolving. The technology of awareness. Jung's model was not just philosophical, it was practical psychology for navigating multidimensional existence. He saw dreams as the operating system of the soul, archetypes as the code, and individuation as the path to wholeness. To Jung, the task of life was to become aware of all the selves you are, and to bring them into dialogue. This is not the suppression of parts, but the orchestration of a deeper unity. Through this awareness, you begin to consciously choose which version of yourself you wish to embody, and thus, which version of the world you wish to experience. This is the secret of psychic sovereignty, understanding that you are never trapped in one reality. You can shift. You can integrate. You can transcend. The multiverse is within you. Modern science is now beginning to touch the edges of what Jung knew intuitively. Theories of the multiverse, parallel dimensions, and quantum consciousness mirror his psychological insights. But Jung went further. He saw that the bridge between worlds is consciousness itself. That the veil between dimensions is the veil of perception. You don't need to go anywhere to access these other realities. They are here, now, within you, unfolding in layers of thought, emotion, memory, instinct, symbol, and soul. So when you feel torn between parts of yourself, remember, you are not broken. You are plural. You are the artist and the critic, the dreamer and the doubter, the child and the sage. All of them are you, living in harmony or in conflict, depending on your level of awareness. To live consciously, as Jung envisioned, is to realize you exist in multiple realities simultaneously. And the more you integrate, the more whole and powerful you become.